I interact with on Twitter. You see that I posted that I'm embarrassed that I've been in LA for about 5 years now, and I've actually come to live in LA directly. I just don't know why. It was like, so a little bit of history. I lived and worked in New York City for 10 years, 5 years of which was working at Bureau Apple Consulting Engineers, who some of you might know also here in LA. And that's actually when I transferred out to LA, I moved basically right near the Bureau Apple office in Culver City, and still live there right now, even though they live downtown. And so a couple years after working in Bureau Apple in LA, I sold a piece of software to this company, Bell Systems. I had originally started developing mobile apps when I was at Bureau Apple for looking at BIM models on their iOS devices. And so I sold that piece of software to a company called Bell Systems, which did construction management software for iPads. And then they, within a year, got acquired by Autodesk. And that's how I ended up in Autodesk. And Dynamo is a project that actually started when I was at the tail end of Bureau Apple, and I'll show you one of the projects that kind of started Dynamo. And then before I left, before I left to go to software engineering proper, I open sourced Dynamo because I didn't have a lot of time to work on it. I was going to this other startup and everything else. And Matt Jezik and a couple of guys inside of Autodesk picked up the ball and ran with it and said, hey, you mind if we put a couple of developers on this and start developing Dynamo? And then it wasn't until a year after I was inside of Autodesk that they actually said, they kind of like a proper project and put proper team around it. So it's been 4 or 5-ish years that Dynamo has been, 2011. It's been about 4 years that Dynamo has been in existence. It's just over like 2.5 years. It's been like really strong development. Yeah, we've come a long way. But I will say, it's always nice to have a figurehead for the project, which is kind of the role that I play for Dynamo. But Dynamo looks completely different than the project that I started. As often happens with somebody who doesn't come from a coding background. I'm trained as an architect, and before that as a sculptor, so none of this sort of came naturally. You look at your code that you wrote a year ago and it's terrible. A year from now, all the code that I'm writing today is terrible as well. So Dynamo has almost completely turned over in the time that we've been working on it, and that's the credit of the great team that I have working on Dynamo both in outside of Boston in our Waltham office and in Singapore. We've been continuing to connect with in Singapore. So always shout out to the Dynamo community.
Good question. Waiting for you to get to this point again.
Okay, well, that's good. We're gonna get there. I will get there, I promise.
I just wonder why you call it Dynamo.
That's a very good question. It's always been called Dynamo. They didn't make me change the name or anything. It was just like, I was like, oh, it's dynamic. So let's call it Dynamo.
Like parameter?
Well, it's a dynamo. It's like a whirlwind. It's turning things over.
Yeah, I just thought it was a dynamic way to create geometry, so I called it Dynamo. And Grasshopper had at the time taken all the like cool like animal names. So, and I'll get to your question in a second. I did want to round back around to the question earlier, like how do you get into this thing? So there's a thing that's now available. It's only been available actually for I think about a month maybe. Called the Dynamo Primer. It's up on the Dynamo BIM on the learning section of our website. And the Dynamo Primer is our first real, well-crafted sort of guide to how to get started with Dynamo. So if you have either yourself or somebody that you know who's interested in getting started with Dynamo, go to dynamobim.org and start in the Dynamo Primer. It's a really nice, we've got these guys at a company called Mode Lab in New York who are working on this, who are consequently the guys who wrote the book on Grasshopper as well. So we wrote a book on Grasshopper Primer, same guys, they do really awesome stuff. They produce some really compelling learning content. So definitely go to the learning site. So, what is Dynamo? That's a great question, and I tend to take for granted the fact that a lot of writing people kind of know what Dynamo is. They kind of heard about it. It showed up on the toolbar a couple of releases ago because it's now in the box. But Dynamo is a visual programming language that works on top of Revit. It also has a standalone component, the Dynamo Sandbox, which you can use to play with Dynamo outside of Revit, but the way that it's hosted for you. LA Revit user group attendees are going to be using it is on top of Revit. So it's a Revit add-in, and it allows you to basically have access to the Revit API without having to know how to write and compile code. Is that pretty good?
So it's like a Windows was the DOS for
Wow.
Yeah.
Windows was the DOS.
Right, yeah, what the.
Okay, I'll take it.
The icons, icons. and-
Well, the stupid thing I should say, it's like Grasshopper for Revit, because that's what everybody who knows Grasshopper would say. It's like Grasshopper for Revit. And that figures into the history of Dynamo as well, because the project that they kind of started with was actually a Grasshopper project that we then had to get everything from Revit, and it's kind of where we're at. So,
I like to say that it's kind of taking the programming, putting it into a little slider. So we're just playing with the slider and not even realizing what's going on with the actual code.
Visual programming.
But it's a good analogy because when Windows came in, you just grab the mouse and keep clicking, and the OS had to put C, point,
Backslash, whack, whack.
and it's like, I don't even remember what it is to put in the OS. Yeah.
so we already did the show of hands, so I'll skip right to. So has anybody seen this project, Arctic, the Regional Intermodal Transportation Intermodal Center?
You mean the train
It's
station?
okay, right? The train station, yeah. It's HOK project with Real Apple, and it's in Anaheim. It is, so this is the last project I worked on at Bureau Apple, but it's the project where Dynamo started. And so on the left, you can see the image of the finished project. On the right, you can see the BIM model that we built, which at the time, HOK took this project, which is, it's actually a section out of a giant torus. So we rented a giant torus that goes down here, you take a sort of deep section out of it. That is the shape of part of it. And they took this building to Autodesk, and I worked with Autodesk. They said, can we do this in Revit? Now, this was Revit, I don't even know what year it was, because they were still calling the structural versions different than the architectural versions at the time. So it was 5-6 years ago. So, Revit was still getting better at complex geometry. Maybe the conceptual massing environment existed, but I don't think it quite existed yet. Basically Autodesk, and it's funny because there are guys who are now on the Revit or on the Dynamo team, we used to have a Revit team. They reminded me, they were like, well, yeah, we told them we couldn't do that. We told them it probably shouldn't be done that. But I didn't really like that answer. Bureau Apple's scope for this project was the facade. So all of this steel that you see here that forms the roof, and all this cladding and this facade down here, and the structure of all of that. And it's basically a die-grid structure, an in-plane steel die-grid structure made out of structural steel tubes that all have these very nicely welded joints. And then the whole facade is, the upper part of this facade is ETFE cushions. And it's the largest, I think it was at the time, and probably still, the largest installation of ETFE in the United States for a roof spanning structure like this. And so some of these panels are really, really big. And so there was all kinds of geometric, challenges from the outset. And then we also did these end walls as well. These end walls were pretty more typical sort of curtain wall systems in Revit, which were doing pretty well at the time. We had some crazy details and stuff in here, but that stuff could be done pretty much out of the box. But all of this stuff that comprised the roof, basically what we did was we were working with the architects on the Grasshopper model. And they would send this definition over to us, and we would pull bits out of it to do the structural analysis. And then we would try and figure out, the mandate was that there had to be a Revit model at the end of this process. Because at some point somebody said, no, we're doing the Revit, I don't care what it takes, we'll hire programmers, doing the Revit. And that was across the whole project team. So HOK was working Revit, we were working Revit. And so I, at the time, was writing a whole bunch of little complex scripts for getting stuff from Rhino into Revit. Basically, structural steel center lines and stuff, just taking these line segments out of Rhino and putting them into Revit as cubes. And that toolkit, I'm working between that toolkit, which had 20 or 30 tools in it by the end of things, and Grasshopper, and I'm thinking, man, It would be just great if like we just didn't have the grasshopper part. Like we could do the geometry part right in Revit. Because as many of you know, whenever you're translating data from an application to another, there's all kinds of data loss, and it's just hard to move stuff around, especially when you have to like iterate. But then there were all kinds of there were challenges within challenges within challenges. On top of all of these tubes here were these little channel seats for the ETFE channels, and they had to rotate and stay normal to the surface of that roof. And how in Revit, if you've got this kind of like curving, sloping member, do you figure out what the normal to that sort of notional surface underneath this thing is, and how you orient the thing to point towards that normal? So like you really just couldn't. So we wrote code to do that, and then that code sort of started to give us ideas about how to make Dynamo. And this is just sort of anecdotally, I remember leaving the office one night very late on this project and thinking like, I just never ever want to draw a plan of a building ever again. And that literally, like a couple weeks later, I left and started working on software full time.
So are you young
And
aspiring
the same
architects?
size, or they're all different?
No, and they're all different. Everything is different. You know. So ultimately, this building was also the steel fabricators and erectors and the roof and the sound fabricators. They just wanted them all. In the end, they didn't use the Revit model because there were still all kinds of little weird problems with the model, just in terms of the exactitude of how we used to get and stuff. But they used the setting out points, I think, that we defined in Dynamo, ultimately to make the fabrication like that. So this is kind of our Dynamo in a nutshell video. That's also on the Dynamo BIM site, and I'll just kind of talk over it quite a bit. So the idea was pretty simply like, okay, visual programming like we have in Grasshopper, but so that you can leverage all the data that's inside the Revit model. Because that was the one thing, and the reason that people started moving to Revit for the documentation models is that you do a lot of sophisticated stuff both in Rhino with Grasshopper in terms of geometry. You can basically make all your building geometry. You can do the same stuff in AutoCAD, really sophisticated. But in the end, you wanted to store all the data, right? And then you wanted to be able to use that data to develop relationships in the model that weren't, available kind of out of the box. And of course, there are parameters on families. There are formulas you can put on family parameters. Some of you are probably really good with those. But there was one big missing piece to all of that, which was that one family here in Revit can't talk to this family over here. This family, no matter where it is, what it's doing, can't tell this family to do something unless there's a relationship developed between them, like, they're one is hosted on the other, or one is sort of aligned and locked to the other. We wanted to be able to have parameters from one family drive parameters on the other. So that was another sort of starting off point for thinking about Dynamo. Like the sun settings object that you can get inside Revit. What if you could just get the image of the sun and use that to set parameters on facade plans? This is an example data set, also again put together by Mode Lab. They were doing this kind of fictional train station study for the Hudson Yards, which is on the west side of New York. If you've ever been over there, it's this kind of like giant dead area where there's all these rail yards. And for years and years, people have proposed different sort of train stations and new convention centers. So they took that space. We were just like, build a Dynamo project. And so they built this thing and sent it back. Oh, it's cool. One of the things that this video shows, and it's sped up to like 3 times, it's almost is the use of adaptive components. So another show of hands. Who here considers themselves pretty good with making families? Yeah. Who here considers themselves pretty good with adaptive components? Okay, so like half of the original number, right? Because adaptive components are their own sort of dark art. But the thing, well, so one of my colleagues, the product owner for Dynamo, is a guy named Zach Crone, and if many of you might know his Build Z blog that he's had for the longest time. He is like if adaptive components are a dark art, he is the I don't know.
He's the Saruman.
The wizard, he's the Saruman of, yeah. So, Build Z, there's a
I
plug,
know him, I know that.
there's a plug for Build Z. I think it's buildz.blogspot.com. That's Zach's blog. If there's anything you want to know about how to do complex adaptive components, it's a great resource. But we knew that another thing that Dynamo had going for it was that you could decide where you wanted to put the intelligence in your model. So when we were looking at a lot of grasshopper models, even ones that we had built and were using in practice, you basically had to build everything in the grasshopper model. Like if you wanted a component that functioned a la a sort of adaptive component, you had to design that component in grasshopper, you had to instantiate it and everything. So you ended up with these massive grasshopper definitions. Well, we looked at the problem when we started working on Dynamo on top of Revit, and we said, well, adaptive components already have like all this embedded intelligence. Like, why not, allow the people who are experts in building that kind of content to build and manage that content, and then allow Dynamo to just basically instantiate that stuff in a really smart way. So oftentimes you'll find that for complex facades and stuff that use adaptive components, the visual graphs that are a result of that, that are an artifact of that process, are usually much smaller. Because they choose a different place to sort of put their intelligence, or we say put the brain. Just a couple of pieces of user work that I'm always, and I try to give credit where credit is due, and hopefully I'm allowed to show all these things. I think I am. This is Brian from Gensler here in Los Angeles. He actually started using Dynamo a long time ago, surprisingly long time ago, because for those of you who started with Dynamo, it was shaky for the first year that it was around. It's still a 0.8 software. It's not even like the version 1.0 yet, so it's very beta. But he came to AU last year and he showed us his project, and it just absolutely blew my mind. This is this bridge component between these two towers. And it had this kind of like twisting shape with these sloping windows and everything else. And like every architectural project, the shape of the underlying shape of this thing, the ruling shape of this thing was changing over time as we designed. And so he just wanted a way to be able to sort of instantiate all of the structure and these facade components and make sure that when the underlying shape updated, that stuff updated as well. So he developed this Dynamo definition. And then, he was actually one of the first users who used Dynamo through the life of a project and let us know, he was very vocal about letting us know, that from one version to the next, he's like, went from version 07 to 08, and my graph broke, and I can't make this bridge. And, so we learned a lot about sort of being able to migrate people's workflows from one version to the next. This is, the scales of projects people are doing with Dynamo are both on the scale of what you just saw, and towers, and giant airports, and all kinds of stuff that we're really proud to say. People are working with Dynamo on very large projects now. They're also working with Dynamo on very small projects. A friend of ours named Jeff McGrew has a shop called Because We Can in San Francisco. It's a little design build shop, and they got this series of containers from Google, and Google said, you're going to make these into little lounge spaces for us. And B, who's the woman who works for him, wrote a whole series of Dynamo tools specifically for fabrication. You could take like a complex shape and break it out into these sort of triangles, and then could number each of those triangles on every edge so you knew exactly which triangle matched with which. And they do all the fabrication themselves, so they had a CNC machine, CNCing all these things out and scribing in the numbers. And then also like drilling the holes that were in very specific locations so this can practice. And there was a few of these containers that we now ship out to Google. So we were really happy to see it's like a nice little jewel kind of project using Dynamo. And actually we're finding now, there's kind of like once Dynamo got to a place where people started using it on projects, people said, wait a second, I can use this for fabrication, and it might be the last sort of tool that we need in the tool chain to get Revit kind of moving into fabrication. So, people have always thought of Revit as a sort of a design, documentation, modeling platform, and obviously a BIM platform. But a lot of our construction users and also our higher end sort of architecture users have started to say, hey, wait a second, we already have all this data in the model. What if we just pull it out and into drafting views we could throw up, fabrication application drawings. Guys who are doing things like formwork, like complex formwork, they want to take a concrete wall that's got a certain shape and decide to get a Dynamo script and have the formwork drawings done for them. Because if you've ever seen somebody do the formwork drawings for a very complex concrete project, it's like a bizarrely old-fashioned process where people are trying to do unroll elevation wall. So Dynamo helps with a lot of that stuff. This is a project being done by a guy named Nathan King and a couple of cohorts at Virginia Tech. And it's a project that's actually going to be installed very soon on the Greenway in Boston. It's a sort of a grid shell structure made out of white oak spars with these connecting metal plates. And so the plates that you see on the right there, he actually had an ABB robot at Virginia Tech that was programmed via Dynamo to do something like 3,000 unique welds. They mounted this little robot arm underneath the sort of welding table, and these things were all welded from underneath. And so he just sent us this photo the other day saying, these were all welded using Dynamo. So it's pretty cool, and it's a testament to the fact that Dynamo's starting to go in all kinds of like new and interesting locations that we couldn't have sort of planned for it to go. We also are very happy to see that external developers are starting to get into the game with Dynamo. So we've always had a few different ways to develop for Dynamo. It's pretty important for us from the outset that we develop a community of contributors to Dynamo. So the first thing that we introduced for Dynamo was this thing, the package manager, which I'll talk about in a bit, which enabled users to make their own scripts and then publish them for the community to use. We also have, because the whole Dynamo project is open source, we also have users like Alexei Lobanov here, who I love to show off this project that he's working on called Dino, which we were sitting around, we go to these big architecture offices, and the question that we're always asked is, the graph is great, the spaghetti is cool, and I certainly have guys who are going to get into that, but I'm, a more senior sort of project manager type guy. I don't want to deal with the spaghetti. I just want like a button, or I want a little simplified view. And I don't want to I don't want to bash these guys. They just have different priorities in the project, right? So they want to open up a view that very quickly shows them, here's the parameters I can change, I can tickle these things, and this thing changes shape, and that's what I want to get done. So we were thinking, okay, well, what if we made a script? What if we made a thing that could take your Dynamo file and turn it into a button? You could set up the Dynamo files with exactly what you want, and then you could buttonify it, and then the button would be what your IT guy installed whenever they works. It would be like 2 or 3 guys who are like good with the spaghetti, and then everybody else, the hundreds of other people in the company who were never going to deal with spaghetti, would, because we're talking about big architecture, would use the button. So Alexei, he sent out this video, and he's essentially done what we were kind of thinking of doing, which is basically he's made this interface, which you see right there on the right, which enables you to register a bunch of Dynamo scripts. And without ever actually opening Dynamo, you can sort of double click on those things in that little list that comes up. You can change some input parameters to the graph, and then you can actually just run the script straight from there. So you can have this little sort of list of scripts that are available and registered for a particular project, and you never have to touch the spaghetti. And we think this is really cool. We've reached out to Alexei to see what we can do to help him develop this work. And this is really very inspiring for me to see, because it's a sort of an extension to Dynamo that we were already, the direction that we were already moving. Yeah, it's called Dino. We call it Dino. So you can see the Dino browser there next to the Dino. So
that's very interesting, because a lot of times there's certain procedures that people do over and over and over again. That's what I was trying to do before. There's no consistency. So if you have a button, then you can press the button to make it spaghetti.
yeah, that's exactly the thing. So you don't always need, if the thing that you're doing is just renaming all your sheets in the same way every time you do it, or enforcing some company standard, or checking your model for some company standard, you don't need to see this again. So this is kind of the way that we're thinking of going to do that, to basically buttonify the capability. So that's really cool.
So is that going to be the end, kind of end result with these things, right? We go away from buttons. note it up and then come back
And
to
then go back to
buttons?
buttons. Well, we,
Because right, 99 point whatever percent of users really not only don't have the, sometimes capacity, really, to really dig in to where you need to get to be able to be a programmer.
and regardless of capacity, I mean, a lot of people just don't have the time. Like, most people who say to me, like, I can't learn Dynamo, I just don't have the time. I've got project deadlines, I don't have time to like dig into this thing, and, you know, because usually people have to do that on their own time.
Sleep.
Yeah, we have an issue with something like that. There's a lot of add-ins out there.
Yeah.
A user, you know, really advanced user in our office came in and we just needed to apply smoke boxes during his use. So it's very simple task, it's tedious, we need a return, it's only what this is in Dynamo. Very simply, like, do it in Dynamo, and he's like, oh, I already finished the task. But the problem with him was he downloaded an application, installed it, and now he's having issues with his project.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
of that.
Well,
So we
you
can't
know,
get it
I
fixed.
gotta say, there's a lot of great API, like, there's a lot of great add-ins for Revit out there. And I feel a little bit bad because Dynamo, just the nature of Dynamo is that you can now write your own things. Like, you know, you don't need some special add-in developer to sell you something. You can write your own things. But, you know, the place that those add-ins still serve is that they do a lot of stuff with Dynamo, we just haven't exposed it to the API. We've kind of carefully selected the bits of the API that we want to expose, and now we're just about to undertake another sort of big exposition of stuff because, you know, there's stuff that we see users wanting, like rooms and spaces and that kind of stuff, that we could never expose the vision. So there's still a place for that stuff, but
Is the intent to expose the entire API to Dynamo? So you've got like event handlers and a dynamic model updater and the whole.
right, so there are already dynamic model updaters. I'll show a little bit about that when we get to the demo. The thing that, the comment that I was making before about this sort of, the complexity of the Revit API and the nomenclature of the Revit API, the reason that I say we've curated what we've chosen to expose in Dynamo is because if we just expose the Revit API methods straight up, nobody would use Dynamo because it would be as complex. We actually did that at the beginning of Dynamo. We wrote a routine that basically went over the whole API and just turned it all into methods. And nobody could figure out how to use it.
Everybody half of them commit suicide.
Unless they knew, we never actually even showed it to users, like even people inside the company, like, I don't know, you know, because you'd have to know the Revit API. And if you have to know the Revit API, well, why would you have to? But you're one thing. So analysis and optimization, this is like really near and dear to my heart. And I feel like Dynamo has only just very recently gotten to the place where we can actually start doing real sort of analysis and optimization now. One of the sort of ideas behind Dynamo is that you should just be able to plug in analysis. You should be able to have an engineer who's working on analysis, and you should be able to plug that into your design workflow, and vice versa, so that they can affect each other. And certainly we've seen this happening in Grass. We have a really vibrant user community out there who are involved in different types of analysis. And we also have a lot of internal analysis technologies that have been exposed in different ways, and we're now wrapping up for Dynamo. So on the upper right-hand side, you see Dynamo for SAP, which if anybody, how many people in here are architects? Engineers? Structural, mechanical? What? Mechanical?
Electrical.
So structural engineers, SAP is a structural analysis program. So we actually hired TT, Thornton Tomasetti in New York. They have a little group of developers called Core Studio. He said, hey, can you make us a Dynamo plugin for Dynamo, a SAP plugin for Dynamo? And they made this really brilliant piece of work that you can actually see the loads and forces and stuff right inside the Dynamo environment. And then you can push stuff and pull stuff to and from SAP. They also made the one below that, which is energy analysis for Dynamo. So, has anybody here used Green Building Studio? So Green Building Studio is an energy analysis application that is available. And Revit, you might be aware, underneath the covers in Revit, there's an analysis model. So there's a structural analysis model, there's also an energy analysis model. And depending on how much attention you pay to it, you can hone that model so that you can actually do energy analysis. You just send your model off to GDS, and you get the results back. The difficulty is with that it has, like many Revit built-in sort of functionalities, it has a it has an expectation that users, it picks the sort of, I don't want to say the lowest common denominator, it picks the functionality that is going to be most common, and it implements that. But, you know, a lot of people who, from Common Study we're dealing with, for instance, wanted to create more complex energy models. They wanted to create more complex models for their architecture clients. So they made this suite of